Now, we have to move on to politics news now because we have a government minister waiting in the wings. The Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, has committed to... Well, he says he's committed to keeping the pension triple lock. Now, that would currently mean the state pension would rise by 8.5% because the triple lock is that it will rise in line with earnings, inflation or 2.5%, whichever is the higher figure.
That's the deal. But some senior Conservatives, I'm sure you read this over the weekend, and into last week really, are calling for that to be rethought in favour of tax cuts. Well, we're joined by the Pensions Minister, Laura Trott. Ms Trott, thank you very much indeed for joining us. We're at a loss here. What's happening with the triple lock and the pension? Is it going to stay? Is it going to be diluted? Is it going to be carved up? Any idea?
We're absolutely committed to the triple lock. So the triple lock was a Conservative invention from 2010. It was in our last manifesto, and it has taken 200,000 pensioners out of poverty since 2010. Now, the process for this year, you outlined earlier, it's a statutory process, which means it's a legal process that we have to go through every year in terms of determining what it's going to be. We have to look at the average earnings and then look at the inflation rate. We haven't got those figures yet, so I can't comment on exactly what it's going to be next year because we've got this process that we have to go through, but we are absolutely committed to the triple lock.
So you're saying to those senior Conservatives, and they're growing in number, that actually it's time to look at the triple lock and that maybe its day has passed. You're saying that they're wrong and you're committing this government to it.
Yeah, that's what we've been consistent about. And, you know, there's always debate on these types of things, but, you know, we are really focused on helping pensioners. We're really focused on reducing the levels of pensioner poverty, of trying to get people onto pension credit, which is the thing that you get if you don't qualify for a full state pension, which also went up by 10.1% this year. You know, that's what we're doing. And I've got an announcement today about trying to boost private pensions too. So we're trying to get people the retirement that they want and they are entitled to.
As far as I understand it, a third of those pensioners who are entitled to claim pension credit don't claim it. What are you doing to make sure that a third of pensioners get what they're entitled to?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. This is something where we are pushing to do much, much more because there are pensioners out there, you know, who really need help and support, who aren't claiming what they're entitled to. That's why we've done a really big push ahead of every single one of the cost of living payments this year. That's why I'm doing a new trial called Invitation to Claim, whereby we're writing to those on housing benefit who don't claim pension credit to try and see whether they can push it up as well. So we're doing a lot and we're really focused on trying to get this levels up. We've seen an increase actually in claims of 75% the year to May. So it is working, but there's always more that we can do because I'm determined.
It's not working if still a third of pensioners who are entitled to it aren't claiming it.
Yeah, that's a figure from 2019. We haven't got up-to-date figures because of the pandemic. It's survey data. But like I said, claims are up this year, which is really good news. And we'll get the eligibility stats to have the updated figure later this year.
Do we know why they're not claiming it?
Yeah, there's a lot of work that's been done on this. A lot of it is about people not knowing about it. It's often people who are only entitled to a couple of pounds and they think that it's potentially not worth it because they don't realise that it passports them to help with things like housing and council tax. So we're trying to raise awareness of that and that's why it's really helpful to be talking about it on your programme today.
And you've already said about the triple lock that you're committed to it. The fact of the matter is that the earnings figure is currently 8.5%. You're still waiting for new figures. But we understand officials are looking at using a lower figure for earnings. This is the thing that's so controversial. By stripping out the effect of bonuses to public sector workers, which would bring the figure used closer to 7.8%. Can you confirm that that's something that you're looking at?
All I can say is that there is a process that has to be gone through. It's a legal process to look at all of these figures.
And under the law, under that legal process, it would be legal, are you saying, that you could strip out the effect of bonuses to public sector workers, which would bring down the earnings figure from 8.5% to 7.8%. I think it would mean that pensioners would lose out on around £75 a year.
This is a decision that's taken by the Secretary of State for DWP, so my boss and the Treasury. No, it's just the process that is gone through every single year, and they look at all the figures.
But is this something you're looking at, taking out the bonuses to public sector workers so that pensioners would get less? Because you can say that you're committed to the triple lock, where pensions would go up in line with earnings, but you can lower the earnings figure so they don't go up quite so much.
What I'm saying is the process is the same every single year. It will be the same this year.
Right.
But you can see from our record that
does it accommodate taking out the bonuses for public sector workers?
So they will look at bonuses and everything in the same way that they do every single year.
Yes,
Nothing
I'm not
has
talking
changed
about every single year, Minister. I'm talking about this next year. Is it something that is a possibility under the process you could strip out the bonuses that were awarded to public sector workers so that pensioners get less, while still saying very publicly we're committed to the triple lock?
Yeah, I get what you're trying to ask me.
And the answer is either yes or no, Minister.
And the reason, so what I'm trying to explain, and I might not be doing it very well, but I will try and do it again, is that these figures are looked at every single year. So the question that you're asking me about bonuses and whether they're looked at, it's the same process for this year as it has been in previous years.
So every single year they look at whether you could strip out public sector bonuses, and so pensioners can expect that that will be considered and they may get less this year.
So what I can confirm is that the process, we're not doing anything differently this year than we have done in previous years.
And that would involve possibly stripping out this bonus, which means that they may get not 8.5%, but 7.8%. It's a really simple yes or no answer for people who aren't looking at every single previous year under which you've made this calculation.
I get it, but what I'm trying to get...
It's a very simple answer, Minister.
Of course, it isn't, because the process hasn't happened yet. So
but you said it happens every single year, so...
Yes, no, of course, but I'm just saying this year's process hasn't happened yet. And those sort of statistics are looked at every single year, and in previous years they have not been stripped out. So that is what I can tell you. But as I said, I cannot give you any guarantees about this year because that process hasn't happened yet. I hope that's clear.
I think it's called giving yourself room for manoeuvre, isn't it?
Well, it's not my decision in terms of it hasn't been taken yet. We haven't had, as you rightly outlined at the beginning, the inflation figures for this year. But this government is committed to the triple lock. Judge us on a track record. Look what we've done in terms of protecting pensioners. Look what we've done about taking pensioners out of poverty. That is what we should be judged on, and that is what we will continue to do. All
right, shall we talk about the so-called WASPy women in this country? I know you're expecting this question. This is about 3.5 million women who've worked all their lives in this country. They paid into the National Insurance Fund, fully expected to get their state pension when they were 60, but then the rules changed in 1995. The government didn't tell them in time, and they now feel that they're being quite severely, penalised for being women, and the rules have changed around them. I think we've got a case.
Angela Madden is chair of the WASPy campaign. At 58 years old, she expected to receive her pension at 60, but was told she wouldn't receive her pension for another 6 years. Here she is.
Now, a lot of women of a certain age will have watched that clip and thought, that's me. What can you say to them?
Well, you were quite right, Richard, at the beginning, that this was a decision that was taken in 1995 and it's been upheld by successive governments. Now, I understand that people are concerned about the notification they have got. There have been a number of court cases about this which have upheld what the DWP at the time did, as I said, under numerous different governments. The complication that I've got at the moment is there is an ombudsman case about exactly this issue. So I'm very limited in what I am able to say, but that is ongoing at the moment and we're expecting a judgment soon.
But do you take their fundamental point that basically they've been diddled a bit?
I have sympathy with anyone who feels like they weren't properly informed. But as I said, this has been something which has been looked at by the courts, who found that DWP didn't actually do anything wrong. This wasn't under a Conservative government, I should say, the timing that this has been looked at. But this is under investigation by the Ombudsman and it would be wrong, and I'm not allowed to comment any further on that.
Laura Trott, Minister for Pensions, thanks very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.